You're watching Spotlight, a production of Culture in Maine, York's cultural showcase. I'm Carla Christopher, poet, publisher, and producer. Join me, along with editor, musical guru, and video extraordinaire Jay Schmuck, plus wild outdoorsman and videographer, along with technical extraordinaire Cliff Kern, and all of our friends as we go behind the scenes and get into the underground of what's really going on in the arts and cultural amazing explorations that are happening in South Central Pennsylvania. You'll see everything from art to music to dance to theater, and you'll also get to meet the people who really make it happen, find out how and why, along with some great studio performances, some amazing on-the-street footage. You'll also get the real story, and that's what we're here to shine a spotlight on. Let's go. Welcome to another amazing episode of Culture in Maine, South Central Pennsylvania's Arts and Cultural Showcase. And we have one of my favorite people joining us today. Allie Krebs Kochert is a poet, is a creative liturgist, which you'll get to learn more about what that means in just a few minutes, and just an amazing spirit who believes in infusing creativity into our everyday lives and everything that we do. And I feel like no matter what field you are, no matter what your genre is, or even if you haven't discovered your own form of creative expression yet, what Allie does and who she is about helping you find the creative in your spirit and how that can be a part of your everyday life, whether it is praying, whether it is painting, whether it is writing or journaling, or whether it is simply how you go out and connect to other people. So prepare to be inspired, and we are super grateful to have you here sharing space with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I definitely got to see your creative side first with you as a writer and a poet, which was not something that you always did. You kind of had to go away and come back to it. What got you started writing and creating again?
Well, you know, I've always been a writer. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, right? We write, and we write stories and have dreams. And then I chose the path of psychology and psychotherapy. So I went to school and got my degree in clinical psychology, and became a psychotherapist. And that took up, you know, a lot of my time and energy.
Yeah, it'll do that.
Yes. And you know, my creative juices were more on the working with the person and the client and their needs. So whenever I started having children 10 years ago, it really was, I needed to put pen to paper to process all the things that go on when you become a mother. So I really regenerated all my journaling, and my poetry kind of starts spilling out of that. So, you know, a lot of my poems are inspired by my children and by my own memories of childhood and mothering, and what it means to parent in this day and age. Yeah.
Wow. And that's so interesting to me, because I hear a lot of moms that, you know, say that when they have kids, that they find that they have less time to devote to their own creativity, and they, you know, end up living so much for these other wonderful, miraculous beings, but then they have to really struggle to recapture that for themselves. How did you keep those juices flowing? I mean, something that was very internally focused. It was just about, like, I need to find a way to process that, or?
It was that, and also, you know, as a therapist, and I was working with a lot of perinatal mental health clients. So I was seeing a lot of women who were mothers and becoming mothers. And, you know, it's one of those things that you have to have a dose of your own medicine. If you're telling your clients that they need to process and start, you know, getting through this stuff that may be challenging, you know, it's part of our journey too as therapists to think about that and ways that we can, you know, process and become whole and learning about ourselves. So, so poetry was just a natural, way of me expressing myself. The creative arts is, I think, necessary more than ever in this day and age. But certainly when it comes to healing your own, issues, or even if you have depression or anxiety or have issues when it comes to mental health, creative arts is a real important way of having an outlet, another way of viewing the problem and viewing the issues, and help you get through it in a safe place.
So art becomes a form of self-care and even self-healing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's super intense. So then how did you make the transition from using art as a self-healing and a self-care and sort of a processing tool into using that type of creativity in a spiritual context? I mean, that to me feels like a huge leap.
Well, it was also one of those things that's very easy for me just simply because I've always been a spiritual person. So writing about my spiritual path wasn't, journaling about it and all that. That's always been part of who I have been. So I would say, again, triggered by having children and processing in my own mind what I want for them and what we are as a family and who I can be for them and for the family. I think a lot of parents think about that, and therefore they church shop, True. And sure enough, that's where I came to a place of where is our faith home. I was born and raised Catholic, and I knew that was not a path I was going to take my family, even though I still consider myself Catholic, my husband and I both. So we had to search for a faith home. We stumbled upon Heidelberg and here on Philadelphia Avenue, and they had such a wonderful creative spirit about their liturgy, and it just was very inspiring. And it really hit me both on a personal level, but also sort of on that creative side of, wow, opening my eyes to what creative liturgy can look like and what, how inspiring it can be for anyone, young, old, all different colors, all different ages. So it's just something that was inspiring.
So liturgy, when we're thinking about liturgy, that's the way that the service kind of runs.
Right.
And I know that in most churches, I know the churches when I was growing up, it was very much the same every week. We're standing up, we're sitting down, we're standing up, we're sitting down, and here's a couple of hymns, and here's some prayers, and it's usually the same prayers. And it was very beautiful. It was very powerful, and it did create this sense of reflection and meditation that I very much still use. But I know that I have been in spaces where the way that church looks was very much re-envisioned. And I know a lot of our longer term viewers know that I spent my whole first year in pastoral training working at Heidelberg UCC, which is at 47 West Philadelphia Street, and is a fantastic open and affirming congregation that really just does a great job of creating authentic and wonderful welcome for folks. And that as a storytelling church, that was the first time that I saw poetry in church. Right. That was the first place that there was theater or drama in church. And that was the first place that I saw some of the readings that weren't necessarily part of the biblical tradition, but were inspired by it, were very much spirit infused and biblically infused, but really creative, where even the church was decorated different. And it put me in a different mindset. It really helped me get into it.
Exactly.
And so that really fascinates me. So what are some of the things that when you're creating creative liturgy that you have come up with to help make worship a experiential thing for folks? What are some of the things that we can do in creating a creative and inspiring worship experience?
Well, I just stumbled on this as a spiritual practice in the past year. So my daughter began working over, or actually doing camps over at Belmont Theater. She's very theatrical, loves that kind of energy. So, and they did Mary Poppins at one of their shows. So that week when she was practicing at home and singing the songs and going through Mary Poppins, it struck me very clearly that there's some real spiritual themes, believe it or not, with Mary Poppins.
Okay.
And I was inspired really just to put it on paper and what that would look like in a church setting. You know, how could we use the story of Mary Poppins, which you know, it's kind of Americana. It's kind of something that many people know. Most people know at least the name, if not seen it. And it just has some fun songs and fun energy to it, and some deeper messages. So so that started me. I started working on that and developing. So a lot of my liturgies kind of start with discussing the bringing you into the story and bringing you into the Mary Poppins, for instance, bringing you into the actual what was happening during the show, and then introducing the characters and all that fun stuff, and then bringing up a biblical connection. So a story in the Bible that, believe it or not, when you read it, it connects really serendipitously. So I think that once you start looking at the Bible, which is sort of an old, for many, especially younger generations,
True.
They're turned off by some of the oldness of it, I guess. Sure. It's not inspiring. We live in a world where it's fast-paced and we are constantly, you know, moving and changing, and
it's true. If you're in school nowadays, you realize like math is not taught the way math was taught 50 years ago or even 20 years ago. You know, English and literature, it's still the same skill. Reading a book is still the same as reading a book 100 years ago, but it is taught and given to kids in a very different way. And even adults, we consume media, we get involved, we learn new skills in different ways. So it makes a lot of sense when you describe it like that, that no matter how timeless a message might be, we need to find new and creative ways to get it to people.
It's a backdoor way of expressing really the general biblical principles, or really not even biblical, just general, you know, important spiritual principles that are across the board, you know, based on any faith that you choose, you know, like the golden rule, for instance, you know. So Mary Poppins was a springboard, and then from there I kind of.
So what is a Bible verse? I'm dying to know. Like, what's an example of a Bible verse that you can find a way to connect to Mary Poppins? Because I'm trying to. You know, Mary Poppins definitely has some special powers, but the idea of tying her to something that's biblical is definitely not something that I expected, which I think is completely cool.
It is totally cool.
And I definitely love some of that music. You know, I noticed that when people are coming to visit me in churches or coming between different churches, the biggest thing that they mention is the sense of welcome, you know, who talked to them, who connected to them. Did people really ask how they were feeling? Did someone really want to pray with them and sit with them? And they want to know about the music. They want to sing and they want to hear something that that makes sense to them or that inspires them. You know, I don't hear anybody talk about, you know, well, how often do you stand up or sit down? But that welcoming and that creative connection, you know, that kind of goes even deeper than the brain, those things really made a huge difference, more than I ever knew.
Right. And church is about community and coming together, and a creative liturgy can do that because it can hit you from all these different angles, not just one that has been doing the same thing for millennia. So it's just a different way of looking at it, and people who like traditional liturgy, you can still sit in a creative liturgy service and still get a lot out of it, and still see a progression and a pattern and an honoring of the sacred and an honoring of some of the traditional liturgical kind of patterns that you see. So the sermon series of Mary Poppins, I start with, how many weeks are we? This one is 4 weeks. And it depends on the scripture. And you're in seminary, so you'll have to remind me, because I don't have all the writing down. So Luke 7:36 through 39. And then we have John, a bunch of Johns. These are options for the pastor, okay? So John 8, 1 through 6, and 11, 2, and 12, 1 through 8. Then we have in Matthew 25, 14 through 30. The scripture in this particular series, I kind of pluck. And I don't necessarily do that with all of them. Okay. Some of them I actually use the liturgical calendar and then use what they have already scripted out and then form the service around that. So that it's totally doable in that way. So the first week is called When Mary Comes, and it talks about what it means to have a savior. Someone who comes and you're surprised, and how do we manage whenever we are faced with something that's surprising that way. I'm
so mind blown right now.
One of the sermons, so part of what I do is I suggest sermon themes. I'm, an example for When Mary Comes. How do we reconcile when we know institutions or leadership is wrong? How do we turn expectations upside down? What are we pushing harder on when lightening a touch, increasing kindness and gentleness will be helpful? So if you remember, I don't know if everyone remembers Mary Poppins, but Mr. Banks in the beginning.
Yes, the dad is not on board. No, he is not on board with the magic in the world.
Yes. So this is a challenging, using some of the scriptures that I suggested, of how can we move forward with lightening our touch, with gentleness and with magic and joy that Mary brings, versus the old guard and what Mr. Banks, is, what? Mr. Banks is...
He is the old guard. He is a banker, and he is very much about, traditional.
Right.
And, even, so much of like not being able to share and show affection and playfulness. He is not able to enjoy his own children because he has to be serious and he has to be working all the time. And he misses all the joy that Mary has to teach him how to reconnect with.
Right. So
that makes so much, all of a sudden that just makes complete and total sense to me.
It does.
What?
And honestly, if you are familiar with some of the New Testament, there are stories that align with this perfectly. So that's why actually the scripture stuff, it's easy to put that in there. Depends on, how you view it, and then what obviously the pastor wants, exactly how she or he wants to explore. So
So do you ever experience pushback from people that say, you're bringing in things that have nothing to do with church? It's too foreign. This is, or how is this your place to be a creative liturgist without being a pastor or without being someone who,
Right.
Went to school to study all the finer points of the
Right.
Bible?
Well, I haven't seen a lot of pushback simply because I surround myself with creative people who are supportive and loving. So
that's like that's a sermon right there.
Yeah.
I love that because so many of my guests do come on here and say that they have experienced pushback. They've experienced people that don't understand what they're doing. They've experienced people that are not supportive. And just what you described right there, I have made the conscious decision and I make specific choices in my life to surround myself with supportive people, positive people, people who are creative and embracing of new ideas. And I do everything that I can to be in nurturing community.
Exactly.
That practicing of self-care and creating an environment that supports your art, your spirituality, and your personhood. That's something that a lot of us do not do.
Right.
And really deeply suffer for it.
Okay.
So just hearing you claim that and name that as something that is a healthy practice that artists can engage in to foster their creativity, creating a life that supports your art, not just art that enables you to get through life.
Yes.
Is just a beautiful thing that
Yes.
I feel like people can really take.
Yes. Amen to that for sure. Yeah, we all need supportive, loving people around us. And believe it or not, and this may just be the therapist in me talking, I truly believe that we choose those loving and people. We choose the path that we are on. And I think that if we're surrounded by people who are naysayers and people who crush our dreams, unfortunately, all we have to do is look at ourselves and what do we need to do next, to not be in this situation. And I'm not saying that's easy. I'm not saying that's the easy path, but it's out there. Support is out there. Loving people are out there, and the right audience for your stuff, it's out there. There's going to be pushback. If a pastor uses these liturgies, there's always gonna be people that are gonna say, well, I wouldn't say this, and I don't like the way you said this or that. It's one of those resilience things. It's building up resilience and knowing that your art is greater than you. It's greater than your ego. It's greater than what you're putting out there. It's a spiritual practice, so it's bigger than me.
Wow. And I'm feeling like you using a word that I've been hearing more and more lately, resilience. And this idea that it's not about not being affected by things, but it's about cultivating the ability to bounce back.
Yeah.
And that this is a word that we're hearing in academia a lot. It's a word because that is turning out to be one of the biggest predictors of success.
Okay.
If we're looking for traits in young people, if we're looking for traits when we're doing these job testings, it's not ability, it's not intelligence, it's not IQ points, but what tells us who's going to be successful and who's going to do well in different challenging environments. Their scores, so to speak, on resilience are the biggest predictor that we have.
Yeah.
And
I believe it.
we learned, over the last decade that empathy is a skill that can be taught, that you can learn how to identify and connect with other people and build healthier relationships. But I think we're just at that learning curve of that resilience is a skill that you can learn.
Yes.
So are you feeling like doing this creative work and, inspiring yourself with your own creativity and creating environments where your spirituality is celebrating your creativity and art, where your work is inspiring your creativity and art, that's actually promoting resilience as well as and teaching you new skills as well as healing you from some of those older wounds? I mean, can art actually make you better?
I would say so.
It's bold. It's a bold idea. This is new stuff, people. This is new stuff.
I would love it. I would love to say that that's the case, across the board. I know that it's a healing path for most people. I worked many years ago inpatient psych with severely mentally ill older adults, and their highest recovery rate for the most part was connected to the art therapy and the music therapy programs. It wasn't the talk therapy groups, it was the art and music therapy groups. So that alone, really speaks to the power that, that it can generate healing within you that you don't even know you have, or strength and resilience that you already, you have. And I saw that, in my work, that older adults, they got to a place in their life where they were very depressed or very anxious and felt like their life was over. And they were, in their 60s, 70s, sometimes even 80. Wow. And yet they healed. And yet you saw them get to a place of resilience and self-healing and self-power. So to see that transition even in an older adult population, that just gives us hope for all of us, right? So Absolutely. We all have that ability to turn whatever path we're on and possibly move to something new.
Well, you know that you can check out not just Allie, but Allie's entire wonderful co-creative team, Heidelberg 47 West Philadelphia Street, and worship is at 10:45 every Sunday morning. Yep. But I know that even if you are part of a different faith community, Absolutely. That there are lots of opportunities. There's a great First Friday arts-infused cafe that's done there, and there are also other classes, like there was a creative prayer where everybody was painting and doing arts activities. So there are lots of awesome arts activities if you go and visit Heidelberg UCC, Heidelberg United Church of Christ's Facebook page and website, which is on the screen below, and you can see other arts-infused worship classes and experiences that you can take part in. And we will also make sure to keep in touch with Allie as she is doing other creative liturgy experiences throughout the county. So keep tuned to our own Facebook pages and websites, Culture in Maine, facebook.com/Culture in Maine, as well as WRCT.tv. And we will make sure to keep you posted on where you can experience the creative liturgy, the poetry, and a bit of magic.
This poem is named Rocky Ridge. Crushed by force now, jumbled into silence, the pebbles, pink quartzite, threads steal a wink of the sun. None so big as my fist create this boulder. A coarse conglomerate, seeds of the past solidified by time, by pressure, faultless as if plucked from a shelf and placed by a giant's thumb and forefinger here. An altar to my 5-year-old self. Little fingers grasp the precise handholds and hoist myself up to get a better view. This poem is named Tulip. She stirs and peeks up to the tiny glow of a fading star, the humbling of the night, and succumbs with warming morning. Awake, she breaks the black, sweet earth. Her papery folds reveal her throat, thrown lofty, skyward bound. Her blushing lips, sewn ready now, reveal and tremble in the air. Exposed and ripe, she winces when the swift storm begins to ink the sky. Perfumed and poised, she starts to sway, succumbing to the lonely dance, lingering amid the trampling boys, a selfish lover's pluck, the purging rain collapsing her folds.
I'm Carly Omo. I'm 16 and I'm an 11th grader at Northeastern High School.
¿A qué hora vienen?
Los camareros.
Her friends and family may not have known her intentions. She showed up to take part in Miss Latina of York 2018.
I ran for Miss Latina because I really wanted to make change, and I really just felt like being in this school, I wanted to do more outside of my school and like kind of really get myself out there in the community and help other young Latinos really find leadership roles. I want them to be able to get the opportunities they need.
As a part of Welcoming Week, Carly showed up to the York Fair to take part in Miss Latina 2018.
A lot of my friends think it's an amazing thing I did because they feel like wow, like you really like want to do more for your community and really engage and be out there and really help represent the Latino youth. And I feel like for me, that's the biggest change because I feel like people recognize that I want to do more instead of just, just be an average student. I just want to do more and help like my other Latino peers.
She stood on that stage with 4 other girls. Delma Rivera stood at the mic. Carly waited for her name to be called. It was last, which means she was the winner of Miss Latina of York 2018.
I think the most exciting thing is seeing how proud like my friends and families are, and also my parents specifically. Like my mother, she's like, wow, I've seen you grown into such a young, independent woman, and you really like want to do something. You want to impact the community. You want to grow, start growth, start making change, and really like put an impact on the community.
Today, we visited Carly at Northeastern High School, where she is a junior, and she talked about her experience with Miss Latina of York 2018. As we walked through the halls, we could see the multicultural presence the school district has.
I value my friends and family. For me, I really care about them. It's almost like we say, like I feel like for me, being Hispanic means like being close to your friends and families and really putting themselves first, like blood's thicker than water.
Carly wants to be the voice that the youth and community needs. She feels being Miss Latina will help her make a difference. So does the York community.
Bringing more diversity within my friends' lives, my family's lives, and I just really want to get that message out that we're all one, we're all a whole unit, that we should be united as one people. And for me, it's like, I feel like we forget that sometimes, especially here in York County, and I feel like that message really isn't clear to some people. Some people find they can be arrogant or insensitive or rude. And I feel like for me in the future, I would love to see us become more closer and accept and value each other and accept our cultures and our differences.
Our next guests here on Culture in Maine, York's Cultural Showcase, are some familiar faces that you have seen before. Rod Goelz is not just a musical guru, and Cal Weary is not just a music and theater and educational guru, as you've seen them before on our stage. Together, they are 2 of the guiding forces that help bring Weary Arts Group to the community. Now, Weary Arts Group does amazing work in school districts, in the private. I can't believe I fucked it up. It's the first one I fucked up all day. Sorry, Cliff.
Too much shit going on.
I know. Y'all are doing too much. Okay, I'm just going to keep it simple
and
I'll let y'all explain it.
Fuck y'all.
All right.
You explain it.
No, hell no. You'll recognize our next 2 guests because they have been here before. Rod Goelz as a fabulous musician, and Cal Weary as both musician and actor, performer, and guiding force of Weary Arts Group as a theatrical sort of vehicle to bring plays to the community. But there's a whole lot more to what the 2 of these gentlemen are doing, along with their fantastic and dynamic team. These are 2 of the guiding forces behind Weary Arts Group, which is bringing arts education for everyone to not just York County anymore, but to the entire South Central Pennsylvania region. And they have a lot of brand new projects that are coming up this fall. So the first thing I thought when I heard about the new exciting stuff they were doing is that we needed to get them back on the show and make sure to introduce the community to all the new avenues for arts education that are being made available for youth and for adults all around the region. So we are super excited to have both of you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Woo, woo, woo. Okay, so we know that we have gotten, Cal Weary, man of York City theatrical work, and Rod Goelz, man of the king of the bar scene, doing all kinds of incredible music. And then somehow the two of you went from that king of the bar scene.
Come
where you were
on.
like,
Ladies.
just, pushing back. But yet somehow you went from these incredible performance-based careers into both of you have really been educators the whole time. Even as you were performers, you have had a real focus on education. And then both became part of Weary Arts Group when that formed several years ago and started off, being like, I've seen it in doing great plays. We've got Shakespeare on the Rocks happening every year. We've got The Wiz happening every year. And now it's just grown. It's like every time I turn around, oh, well, Weary Arts Group is doing our music lessons. Weary Arts Group is partnering with this nonprofit. Weary Arts Group is doing music lessons here. So can you kind of give us the overrun? Where is Weary Arts Group in the community at this point? Because I feel like y'all are everywhere.
It's easier to tell you where we aren't.
That's what it feels like.
I'm just being a jerk. No, seriously, in the last 4 years, we started 2014, this is 2018. Last 4 years have been quite a roller coaster, a good roller coaster. And I'll tell you, I had a lot of moments of weakness on the decision to do my own thing. And thank goodness the team has come along with that. Everybody who we work with in Weary Arts Group, they're all other people who, we trained and now they're teaching, or they are people who are like-minded, what we believe in as a mission for the arts, and helping people to grow, and helping them to find their own personal grand energy. So Rod, when I met Rod, he brought something to the group that I wanted for a long time. The same thing I would have looked for as a musician was somebody who could get in the pocket and play music with me, and it's more than just the music part of it. It's just the synergy that happens when you have like-minded people, and we've got a lot of them. Rod just didn't have anything else to do today. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, we always do.
I'm just the eye candy.
But no, it brought in a whole other melody. I mean, a lot of the folks that I deal with, they all have their own in fact, we're a group of subcontractors. We're partners. I'm nobody's boss. People may act that way with me sometimes, but the truth of the matter is, in the way that we're created, for those who don't necessarily know what Weary Arts Group is, and there's a lot of people who don't, even though we do a lot of work, we are primarily an arts education organization. And I didn't really try to rhyme that, but it didn't rhyme. Arts education organization. We work for a number of schools, churches, organizations, and we create art. Sometimes it's licensed, pre-licensed art. Sometimes it's stuff that we write and create originally. And it's both. And we have music, we have dance, we have theater, we have videography, we have people who are into creating sound. I'm trying to get some fine artists that are connected to us, and the real connecting force between each one of the groups is we've all been part of other systems that just didn't work. The major difference this year is now some of the systems that normally we wouldn't have worked well in are now coming to us and saying, please come bring us what you do, and we'll let you exist as you are within our system. And I had a really cool way of
changing the system.
No, actually, letting the system stay the way it is, letting them stay the way they are, but existing as an anomaly inside. So, because the problem is when you go places and you try to change systems, which we've all tried to do this before, everyone here, you usually end up fighting against these people who they are not built to have their systems changed. Yes. But most of them, as long as they can recognize that their system still works, they'll allow anomalies within. We're the anomaly within. It doesn't make sense for some people that you would spend a bunch of money on the arts. But when you see what they do to affect the lives of students and community, you can see the validity in it. Now, if I can make a price point that makes sense for it, and I can bring you people that are professional and they are courteous and they don't move too much of the cheese and peanuts around, then you have a partnership that works. And when we come in and we shake up, we're still being activists. We're still shaking things up, but we're recognizing that the anomaly can work within the established system. In fact, it's the only way it works. It's the only way it works. I didn't always realize that. I can go back through my career and see all the times that I decided to pull Band-Aids off and pour,
That peroxide on
pour
it
the
just-
peroxide. I was like, this doesn't work, and then they're like, ah, and then it didn't work out, and then you lose a job or you lose,
So it's been a real journey over the last 4 years of figuring out how can we bring arts programming into all these different places. I mean, that's a
Right.
lot of different venues. We're not just working.
I mean, I
in
could spit them out. You
schools.
want to know what venues we're in?
I would love to know what venues you were in.
So we are at York Academy, we're at York Tech, we're at the YWCA, we're at the Crispus Attucks, the Early Learning Center at Crispus Attucks, we're at the JCC, we are up in Harrisburg at the Capital Area School of the Arts, we're at Union Lutheran Church, which that's really special because that's really our home in the city. So that to us is, as it'll be unveiled, it will be WAG Studios West for us. And then we're also in Dallastown now. It's WAG Studios South, and that's a really special space. So that we're building ambassadorship from suburbs to city, from city to suburbs. And if I'm missing anywhere that we're doing stuff, I feel bad about it because
Well, the Union Lutheran, that in itself is going to be branching off into other.
Right. So
schools.
these are different systems that,
because
working in
with Union,
different schools.
Lincoln, all the after school, all the city schools that we've worked with. We've worked with the library in the past. Did all the after school programming. It was there. So we have a lot of connections to a lot of kids in the city, and we're growing. We're going to start elderly programs this year for the elderly. We're gonna have some other programming that's building with the Crispus Attucks Center, which has just been a wonderful partner with us. At Crispus Attucks, we have toddlers to 12-year-olds,
Yes.
and
It's
then
one of my
we're-
favorite jobs.
Right. I
Yes.
love seeing,
One of my favorite
just
jobs.
following you on social media, and I see, people with developmental disabilities.
Yes, music and
are
wellness.
making music.
Yes.
Well, I
And
mean-
little kids are making music.
Right.
Very-
and
very proud of that.
Urban teens are doing theater, and there's people that are dancing that have never
I was just
thought
gonna
they
say,
could be dancers
one of my
before.
proudest things, like when I say how we bring people in to Weird Arts Group, you start off with, maybe someone was my student and they go off to school, they come back, they're like, I want to get back in the arts, and it's their main thing or it's their side thing, but they're working and they're building other people through that. Or like we're Kendall Williams Casey, who
Awesome dance teacher, super fun.
Well, she does all kinds of things.
Right, that's true, because she writes some of the plays
and
and
she
and
writes, she
produces and directs,
and with her, she wasn't my student. She was running all over the world and doing stuff, but her kids were students of ours. And for many years, she would come and perform with her. It was somewhere she could come and perform with her kids because we would bring her into shows and she would come in. And eventually it was like, okay, am I stupid? Why am I not using this person in other capacities? And that has always been a good thing. She does our conditioning for musicals and plays, for musicals, and all the makeup and stuff that she does for. So I mean, we have a lot of great people. Tony Price, Dante Strange. He handles our music production for The Wiz. Many years he's done that.
And what I love is that you don't just do the outward facing part of the arts.
No.
I have not seen other arts groups or arts programs where the youth could learn about videography, where they could learn about makeup and costuming. You do, I know, a lot with actually the creation of costuming and sets, and then also the tech behind it, learning how to do lights and sound.
Right.
I mean, this idea that you can have real arts-based careers, that you can learn how to do this kind of work on a professional level, and that you can learn lots of these different tasks. And it's not just you're here to play a role, but you're here to be a part of what makes the play happen.
Right.
You're not just here to be a band, I'm going to play this instrument. You're here to learn all the instruments and the
Right.
performance and how to put on a concert and produce a show. That to me is a really different style of arts education than I have seen
Experiential.
anyplace else. Yes.
That's my big thing, experiential learning. and I will.
And tell, what does experiential mean to you? I know that's a phrase that not everybody
I throw
uses.
everybody into whatever group. I teach rock band classes, I teach quick start classes, I teach the music and wellness. I try to give them new experiences that they're not necessarily aware that they're learning something new. It's not, here, try this.
It's not school.
Yes,
It's just all of a sudden, wow,
yes.
I can make music.
Yes, and then they don't have a chance to say I can't do that because they're already doing it. Okay, and then I add, okay, let's fine tune this now. You already know you can do it.
Cool.
You already know you can do it. So it's like, as I said, the music and wellness classes, but the We Rock Rhythm is a class that I teach, and then that is just taking rhythm and rhythm styles of a lot of different popular music styles, and we focusing on that as a way to learn how to play music. So that's another experiential music. We started that last spring, and it was like we learned swing. We all that stuff. We swing music. We learned funk. We learned rock. We learned all kinds of things. But so that's another one.
So that's really interesting that both of you do that too. That I'm hearing that I don't hear a lot. That it's not just I'm teaching something that I learned. It's that I'm creating something
Exactly.
that nobody else is doing.
Well, not only that is like, and I've said this many times to many people. I'm creating the thing I didn't have when I was growing up. This is something that
Because using rock bands to
But also
a
there's
video
another
game.
piece to that too, and it's firm believer, and I think that almost everybody on our team is like this too, that the veil that a lot of schools will pull down, like no one goes behind this curtain, this is how we do things. You have to always kind of have this, and I was a teacher for a number of years, so I definitely know this to be true, where it's like they're not allowed behind the black curtain. We pull the curtain away and say, come on, get your hands in here and get dirty. Because, I can tell you from when I first started working with tech students till today, I want you to get involved and be working so that this is something you can do later. Because if I do everything for you, if I bring people in to do everything for you, you're never going to learn this as something that can be part of your life. We're trying to establish options for kids and for adults that are different than what they were told they could do in this world. So that's why I want to mention also, one of the cool things about going to Union now is we're going to be, in a very close relationship with some kids who will, for the first time, pick up a guitar. For some of them, for the first time, learn what a plie is. For the first time, pick up a camera. There's going to be a lot of firsts for them. And I think that a number of our schools do a really good job of introducing, but maybe they don't get they don't have the time or the money to follow through. And we're going to be able to support in that way. I don't think it's necessary to always be in direct competition. Sometimes we just really need to have some positive competition with some of these groups, but then get past it, and artists need to give art and have art become part of people's lives. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Manuel Talado. He's one of our former students who now is working at York Academy. He's doing an amazing job there with their students, running their new black box theater. He's in charge of the drama program there, and we'll also be in there to help them do their first musical, I think ever, this year. We're at York Academy, and there I have Janae Elliott. She's one of our former students, a York High graduate. So was Manuel Talado, and she's there running drama program with Emily Falvey, it's a wonderful relationship there because we have a teacher from the school and we have one of our instructors working together to do a class. I go in every now and work with them, but they're building. That's what I mean about the whole that weird anomaly working inside of the existing system. At York Country Day. Oh my gosh, that's the one of the ones I forgot. We're at York Country Day School too, and we have Rebecca Wolf is there, one of my old time friends that I've worked with for, gosh, it has to be at least 10 years. I've been working with her, maybe longer, and she's there doing choir right now, and she's going to be pulling things out of those kids they've never done before in their amazing space. At Crispus Attucks we have the Casey twins, and if nobody knows the Casey twins, you had to have seen these girls dance. They're actually were Kenda's daughters, Gabriel and Dita, huh?
Miss Gabe.
Miss Gabe, that's what they call her, Miss Gabe. The little kids call her that. if you get a chance to ever see what Warkenda does with the little toddlers, and she has them moving, and it's just amazing. And then Ashley Shaw, we have her at the YWCA, her and Kendra Peaks. They're both over there, and they're starting new programming there. We have a thing over there called Stunt Kids, which we're also going to be doing at the JCC, where the kids are learning like fight techniques and how to roll, and that they'd see in movies or they'd see in theater. They're doing that there. They're also doing electronic music. So Ashley's working with them. We're creating songs and beats. She's been doing that with us for years. And I think it's just, I wanted to mention their names because here's the cool part. If for some reason I end up coming back here 5 or 6 years from now, and at that point, my hope is that we have installations, in South Carolina and California and Dubai and other places, because I really do expect Weary Arts Group to do that. I'm hoping that I'm going to be giving you the names of kids that are right now 10th graders, that are right now, 11th graders, who are now have gone to school and have come back, and now they're working. Because that's what those guys were. They were all people like Ashley Shaw. We had her from 6th grade.
Yeah.
I've known her since she was born, but we had her from 6th grade, and now she's in charge of stuff. People like Tony Price have trained them, and they come back and they're massive stage managers, and they do all these amazing things. So, and even my own children have worked. Eli Weary, people know him. He teaches guitar classes, trained by Rod, does vocal classes, trained by the world. My daughters have done dance classes. Ella and Amani gone out and taught for summer. We go to other people's summer camps and teach them stuff. And it's been an amazing run, and this has really been the year. This is the year that you're really going to see what we do. We're really everywhere this year.
So if people are really intrigued and want to know more about all the different types of classes that are available, that people from the public can come into, where can they go or how can they get involved?
I would say initially going to wearyartsgroup.com, because we have connections to everything that we're doing, and we're constantly building that. Rod has about a million different ways that you can contact him, including his name. Warkenda also does too. I would say, if you remember names, go and check them out by their names, but you can always go to wearyartsgroup.com and you'll get a contact with someone like myself. If you call our number, our 1-800 number, 1-800-960-4163, you will most likely get me. That's 1-800-960-4163, and you will most likely get it'll be me answering. I think we're building more group classes. We're building more. We do private lessons at our spaces too. And the thing about us that I won't put down anyone else who does private lessons. In fact, we invite them to do stuff with us, but we do things a little differently. I do consultations, talk to them about what they really want. Sometimes they don't even know what they really want. And sometimes a kid comes in to play guitar and he ends up playing bass, playing drums. Yeah. Sometimes a kid comes in. We have a student today coming in. He wanted to take an acting class, which getting one-on-one acting classes is very seldom. You don't see that around here. It's always about dance or about music. Nothing against you guys, but that's what it is. So he's getting a one-on-one acting class, and then he wanted to do a clothing design class, and we have a person who does that too. Wow. So Luella Sexton Morgan,
heck yes,
who is an amazing person there. We also have April Bennett. These are amazing people. I love throwing their names out because I don't know who's going to see this video and what's going to be used. Yeah. And I want them all to know that I really do respect and love them. For the work that they do. Alicia Muhammad working with dance too, just amazing people. But that design class is going to be something different for him because he's going to work on one passion, which is the acting, and then he's going to work on another passion, which is he wants to design clothes. It's a one-stop shop. I don't know if there's anything that we don't do. And when an artist comes to me and says, "Would you ever be willing to do creative writing?" I say yes. And guess what? I've had 12 people who've asked me for that. Mm-hmm. So that's seriously. That's
music and poetry.
Yeah. We do a lot of collaborations. And I think I was told no so many times when I was younger about whether something worked, or told me I couldn't do something. And then I just did it. I was like, well, you said I couldn't do it. I did it, so maybe you don't know. Mm-hmm. And maybe I need to keep doing things. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it sucks. But most of the time, I still learn something. Mm-hmm. We still learn something from it. And we have a lot of places to grow still. And we're still learning. Yeah. We are still learning. But.
Wow, So I know that people can come and find you at Union Lutheran
Yes, I was
at
gonna
what
ask.
is WAG West.
Yes.
Every other Wednesday and Thursday when York City School District and when Lincoln Charter School have their half-day Wednesdays
Yes.
and half-day Thursdays, that there will be community-based arts classes there, a whole range that people can come in, and so that's a great way to get started.
Right.
That's a great
Yeah.
gateway. If you want to try some of the group classes, some of the sample activities, be involved in some of the different programs and really get to meet the instructors, that can be done on a drop-in basis,
Yeah.
and people can come find you there. And people can also go to wearyartsgroup.com.
Yeah.
Right.
And they can get a list of where, links to the different instructors and other private classes and private lessons, and that we can also keep track of all the different events coming up and the plays, the community-based plays and events that you do throughout the course of the year. Because I know that we have, in
The Wizards every year.
every year we have the
Wizards
Wiz
every
coming
year.
up, and we'll have some Shakespeare and some men's plays and some women's plays.
original
and
stuff.
Some
More original stuff.
original fabulous events. And I know that we mentioned in our last episode, we got to meet Joan Maruskin and talk about 10,000 Acts of Kindness. And
Right.
she introduced the November 2nd Saturday 24-hour one
That's gonna be
song
fun.
for York.
Yeah.
And
Did she talk about it?
She did talk about it. She is super excited. And, so Surprise Weary Arts Group is the cultural coordinator for that event. So we will be having a 24-hour jam session
Jamtopia.
at Union Lutheran 408 West Market Street that people can drop in to watch or drop in and bring an instrument and participate, but showcasing York's unity through the idea that we can combine all these different instruments and talents. And if you're a dancer, if you're a singer or a poet, you can come and be a part of the music too, but creating this really special event. And that is, again, second Saturday in November from 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Sunday, that you can really come in and be a part of the Jamtopia experience, a real community unity event. I am so excited for
Yes.
what Weary Arts Group is doing in the community and what all the amazing different individual artists and instructors are doing. I can't wait to see what happens next for you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yes.
having us.
And the collaborations.
Right? All the
collaboration.
collaborations.
You got to get some more of our people on here without us. Like you got to talk to Rakenda and talk to Janae and get. I would love to see them, talk about their experiences. They're amazing artists in this town, and I keep mentioning them because it's like they're out working right now, while the two of us don't have something to do at this moment.
That's how you know
They're
you're
out
doing a good
it.
job.
They're out doing it.
Well, in that case, it looks like we will be hearing more from different talented multicultural members of Weary Arts Group over the next several weeks. So look up for Weary Arts Group, the series. But for now, it has been amazing to spend another time with you out there in South Central Pennsylvania. And if you want to catch up with some of our past episodes, or you want to make sure you can keep up with our future guests and see who's coming on next, you can catch us on Channel 18 throughout York County, Channel 15 throughout Adams County, or you can find us on social media. We are Culture in Maine, Facebook.com/Culture in Maine, or the Culture in Maine drop-down menu at youtube.com, White Rose Community TV. And you can always watch the live stream at wrct.tv, or you can always send us an email to cultureinmaine@gmail.com, and we'll happily send you the YouTube links or send you the place to go and catch your downloads. And hey, if you're a talented artist or musician or community positive advocate and you want to come on the show or recommend somebody to come on the show, we want to hear from you, what you think, what you're doing, what your hopes and dreams are, because as these gentlemen have shown you, your dreams can become someone else's adventurous reality that they can watch or experience with you. Impossibility, that's not what we deal with here. Dreams being made real, that is what we do. So may your dreams all come true, and we'll see you next week right here on the corner of Culture in Maine. Thanks for joining us on another amazing episode of Spotlight, a production of Culture in Maine, York's cultural showcase. We want to hear your ideas, and we want you to be a part of the show. Whether you're an artist or a fan, send us an email to cultureandmain@gmail.com. Check us out on the web at wrct.tv, or make sure to find all of our past episodes on YouTube at youtube.com/White Rose Community TV. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great week. We'll see you soon, right here on the corner of Culture and Main.
Now you know what noise.